Another thing I find really interesting, just coincidentally, Nina Paley, her film "See the Sings the Blues" is taking place at the same time that Focus on India is taking place here in another room.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting, an interview that I saw with her in internet about the cultural possession of something like an Indian fable. Mm-hmm. And with your experiences of dealing with companies in China and India and the American markets, European markets, where there's this very diversified market, what do you think about any things to say about we're having a rampant explosion of animated films? What's this cultural element? Who owns CEDA?
It's interesting. I guess who owns Tarzan. Well, Disney does. America has sort of shoved its culture down the throats of the rest of the world forever. And now the rest of the world is finally saying, hey, we don't just want to watch what you're doing. We have something to say ourselves that we want to express. And, whether it's India, Singapore, China, I'm working with a team right now of filmmakers in China on a movie called Road to Home. It's in development. It's a feature. And it's independent work. It's original content. It's dealing with the Chinese culture, but in a way that also speaks to themes about the environment and also just sort of common human aspirations that they hope will resonate internationally as well as just within a domestic Chinese market. This is clearly something new for them, something new for China, but it's representative of what we're starting to see from areas of the world, India, Singapore, Taiwan, etc. And they have a tough road to hoe, though, because the distribution mechanism is still pretty locked up by U.S. films, and trying to navigate that to get the film done is a challenge. But then, of course, the distribution model, many of them are engaged in co-productions with U.S. companies as a hedge into that, and we'll see where that leads. But it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of opportunity there, and I think we'll see more voices, which is always a good thing.
And I hope to see more of that on your blog, which I follow.
As much as I can reveal, sure, without violating any NDAs, absolutely.
Right. Last question. I remember very vividly a few months ago, or not last year even, the fear in the Western production cultures was rampant. All of our jobs are being taken away by the Indians and the Chinese, when in reality there's these huge markets interested in getting their own content, which is related to the culture.
Right.
And then, ironically, the dollar drops, and Americans are starting to get outsourced jobs. Any comments about things like that, and what's happening? What's the mood in the States?
I don't know if we have enough tape for that, but just sort of in short, there are a lot of feelings and thoughts about just the whole issue of outsourcing and global content. It's a very complex equation, and I can't do it justice here in a minute, but what I will say is that there was a girl who I was visiting at a studio in Taipei, and she was working on what she said was the best job she had had so far. She was making 3 times what she was earning at her previous job, which was at a laundry, and but she was still making way less than any American working in the film industry would make. And she had on her desk work that had been outsourced from a major U.S. studio that will remain unnamed. And so I just asked her, I said, what do you think about Americans who would see that on your desk and be angry that you are doing this work when it should be done in the States? And she said quite plainly and very shyly, she almost didn't want to speak, she said, well, why should Americans be the only ones in the world who think they're entitled to opportunities? And that was like the best answer. Anybody who I've discussed this with, when I mention that, they kind of go, because it's kind of hard to argue with in a way. And I'm sure somebody out there listening to this will want to come through the internet screen right now and say, and I'm not advocating outsourcing, I'm not against it. I mean, this is just what's happening, right? This is the way the world is working. But outsourcing is ultimately a losing game. Even for countries that are taking it on, it's a mug's game, right? I mean, people are only underbidding each other time and time again. And so countries, India, Singapore, China, understand this. They know that this cannot stay forever as a source for them, as a sustainable source of income. So they're creating their own independent content now to sort of prepare themselves for that future.
And with this rapid acceleration, when we look at like Korea, who began as outsourcing for Japanese, who began outsourcing for American, and
Well, India's outsourcing to Costa Rica in some cases. I mean, stuff gets re-outsourced, and it's funny how American producers get outraged, because there was one person I was talking to, and they said, boy, our work came back from XYZ country looking like crap. And I said, are you sure that that studio actually did the work, or did they re-outsource it? And they said, re-outsource it? Why would they outsource it? I said, well, why would you outsource it? And it's like, they're basically just picking up on your game. It's like, if it was good enough for you, why not for them? And they were really disturbed by it, and it turns out that it had been re-outsourced. So, this is, it's a double-edged sword,
What's good
right?
for the goose.
Exactly. It's
right.
good for the gander.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's much more we can say on this topic, certainly. But I think that overall there is an equalization taking place. Americans have lived fairly high on the hog in terms of the world's resources for decades. So when there's an equalization, we're not going to go up higher. That's just the reality of it. Right. There's going to be a balance, but I think we can still live well. I make less than I did as a consultant than when I was, overfed supervisor.
What's
but
the
I'm living,
quality of life quotient?
The quality of life quotient has shot up tremendously. And, I've got clothes on my back. I can travel the world. There's no problems there. So I think that there's that type of career, not as in this consulting case particularly, but careers in animation are possible. There's a lot of exciting opportunity out there for everybody, right? It's not a zero-sum game where if you win and I lose. I think there's room for us all to win, for us all to participate and have exciting careers in animation. So I'm really thrilled about it.
And I look forward to having another year of experience next year.
Oh, thank you very much, David.
To hear from you.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, I think I'm out.
Thank you.
Thank you.